Hi everybody, it's Dave Altavilla for HotHardware.com here with the Maingear Shift computer case. Now if you're not familiar with Maingear computers, they're a high-end system builder out of New Jersey that builds custom gaming PCs and workstations for end users. And their flagship product line is the Shift computer, and it's based on the chassis that you're looking at here. This is a Maingear Shift chassis. The chassis was designed in conjunction with Silverstone, and it's very unique in its design in that the motherboard area inside the chassis is rotated 90 degrees so that the card slots are facing up vertically in the chassis and point out the top end of the system right up here. Now Maingear typically only sells these chassis as part of a full system build to end users, but very recently, a few weeks back, they came out and announced for a limited time that they'd be offering a do-it-yourself case kit that they would ship out to end users, and we have one here. We asked the folks at Maingear to send us one, and we're going to build for you a Shift system based on an Intel Core i7 Sandy Bridge E processor here, a high-performance system build in the Maingear Shift do-it-yourself chassis kit. Let's take a look at the system, show you the features of the case, and show you how it sets up. All right, so just quickly looking at the front of the Shift, we have a satin black brushed aluminum finish on ours, but you certainly can get a myriad of color and paint options. Maingear will do some custom things for you as well for a price, but really nice, classy, minimalistic design. Nice engraved Maingear logo here down the front, and a little bit of gloss right here, just a little bit in this trim area for the very large power and reset buttons. Really like that. Very tactile reset buttons, nice and large, and easy to know that you've actuated them. Open the door here and you've got 3.5-inch drive bays available, and up top here with a little bit of a spring-loaded push pops a multi-flash card reader, as well as a pair of USB ports, 1394 Firewire, microphone jack, and a headphone jack. You also get some indicator lights here for showing you drive activity in this little module as well. All right, so here we are on the back side of the Shift chassis, and there's really not too much to say. A little bit of venting right here, nice embossed Maingear logo. Get some venting up top here, and this is actually where the cables for your I/O connectivity or perhaps your monitor would come out the back of the chassis right here. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. And down here is where your power supply would mount as well, and where the power cable would slide through for that. So not a lot going on in the back of the Shift. Very clean and neat design. Now again, the key design differentiator for the Shift chassis and what sets it apart from virtually all other cases on the market is the fact that the motherboard area in the case is rotated 90 degrees and the card slots for the motherboard face vertically in the case, and actually so all the heat is allowed to flow up, and vertical heat likes to rise, and so it really helps with thermals, but it also offers some interesting design changes and mechanical changes with respect to cabling and connectivity as well. So we're up here in the top of the chassis. I've removed a couple of screws from this top cover area that is also well vented. As you can see, very solid construction, solid aluminum, brushed black satin metal finish here. Even this mesh is a solid aluminum, so very well made case with solid high quality materials, tight tolerances and fit and finish here. Let's go ahead and put that aside, and as you can see up top, here is the card slot area for the motherboard, and I'll tilt it down for you so you can get a better look. Slide it around a little bit, and as you can see, all the motherboard card slots are right here. You've got a venting fan here, and these are all the I/O connectivity options in the motherboard. The I/O back I/O plate is right here as well. So all of your cabling, including your monitor cable, your Ethernet, USB, whatever you want to connect in the back of the system, all runs out this back slot in the chassis. It goes out here on sort of on a horizontal, and you have a nice neat build with all of your cables tied up nice and neat through this slot. Once you slide that cover back on, you want to get access to your cables, you pop the cover off. Real simple stuff. Let's take a look around and show you the internal configuration of the setup, and show you how that looks as well. It's very interesting and unique design, and a very well built case we had. All right, so let's go ahead and pop the side panel for you here. Right up top, is a slide lock button. You just push forward and then tilt out on the side panel and lift up. Very easy to remove the side panel, and it also snaps back in. Very neat and precise as well. There's really no fiddling to get the side panels off. Again, just tight fit and finish all around with the Maingear shift. Let's take a look at just general component area. You've got the motherboard area right here, and this is actually the water block for the Epic 180 cooler, which we'll show you a little bit later. There's a rather large self-contained water cooling unit. So motherboard area right here. You've got your front 3.5-inch drive rack here for all your optical drives, etc. Here is a 3.5-inch drive rack for hard drives and SSDs. These sleds pop out right here, and as you can see, they also support 2.5-inch SSDs mounted inside these sleds as well. And again, plastic construction, you know, but actually better perhaps for dampening vibration, and snaps right in nice and neat and strong, toolless assembly. So nice setup there as well. You have a top exhaust fan right here, a standard 120 millimeter fan right here. You've got a very large 180 millimeter fan right here. And again, down here is that Epic 180 cooling solution. We'll show you a little bit closer next. All right, so here we are in the bottom section of the Maingear shift case. And this is actually where the power supply mounts right here. And you pull cool air up from the bottom, and you would exhaust warm air out the back. And actually, power plug would plug in here as well. This is the Epic 180 water block and pump assembly, as you can see connected right here. And it is a rather large water block and pump assembly for a self-contained, fully self-contained water cooling solution for your CPU. It comes standard with a Shift do-it-yourself kit right now on the website. The Epic 180 on Maingear's site configuration is a standard option for $899 for the full do-it-yourself shift kit. The Epic 180 comes standard. And so this is actually the cooler right here, the radiator and fan assembly. It is a mammoth honking water cooler assembly. This is a large radiator. It actually covers the entire drive rack area right here underneath. And again, pulling cool air in through this fan and pushing all that warm air up through vertically through the chassis. Also, again, another 180 millimeter fan right here, large fan. Also, again, driving cool air up from the bottom and pushing warm air out the top of the chassis. So the flow of thermals inside the shift is all south to north, if you will. All right, so let's go ahead and start building our very own Maingear shift-infused custom gaming PC. And we've gone ahead, we're in the motherboard area of the shift case right now. We've gone ahead and pulled back all of our cabling and wires and whatnot. This is the CPU cold plate right here. We've pulled that back out of the way so we can get full access to the motherboard area. And as you can see, we've also installed motherboard standoffs at various locations inside the chassis. You can see there's a bunch of sites for standoffs all around inside this case, so lots of different setups, lots of different motherboard styles can be accommodated, but a standard ATX motherboard, and the motherboard of choice that we're going with is the Intel DX79SI Siler motherboard, codenamed Siler. Pretty badass motherboard, we might say. We really like Intel's styling here. Based on the X79 chipset, and the processor of choice already in the socket is an Intel Core i7-3960X Extreme processor. This is a 6-core CPU, and it is the new Sandy Bridge E variety. So some serious performance going in right now. And we'll go ahead and drop this into the motherboard area of the shift case, and we will line it up on these standoffs. Got to get by a couple of these cables up top here, no problem, and we are good to go. So we'll go ahead and drop screws in all these sites, and our motherboard will be installed. All right, and that is the last screw for the motherboard. Let's go ahead and apply the cold plate and pump assembly for the Epic 180 water block, which will drop in thusly. So I'll go ahead and put a little dab of heatsink compound right there, pea-sized dab. And just a little dab will do you, as they say. I pull off the backing. There's a little plastic protective backing on the back of the copper heat plate, which is a little tough. I don't want to bend these tubes around too much and kink them or whatever, so I can't really show you the bottom of the copper cold plate. But we've already mounted some screw type standoffs that go right into the motherboard sites for the cooler. And actually takes a little bit of finagling, but Maingear has a cooler, or I should say Cool It Systems, the people that developed the cooler for Maingear, have developed this cooling system such that it screws right into the socket area of the socket 2011 CPU socket in the X79 chipset motherboard. So this is the way things look right now. I'm trying to envision the best layout here, but what we can do is move these back and we'll screw in our thumb screws for the cold plate, each corner. Kind of stand those cooling pipes up a little bit while we get in here, and gives us a chance to move around. And so finally we've tightened down all four of these thumb screws on each of the sites for the cold plate and water pump right there on the cooler. It is down real good, making seriously good contact with the CPU, and will transfer heat away from the CPU with the cooling solution, which will then drive into the pump into the radiator right here and cool with the radiator fins and fan down the bottom. We'll go ahead and plug in this pump power connector right there. It's a 3-pin connector on that little wire, and we'll snake the wiring down here alongside the dim sockets. We might do a little tidying up of this at some later point, but right now we'll just tuck it down in here. So that is our cooler installation. We have got the cold plate screwed down onto the CPU. We're ready to connect some of our SATA cables and a few of the other cables, clean that up, and then we'll snap in things like graphics cards and slide in some hard drives and memory next. All right, so we've gone ahead and installed a few things and routed some cables and wires while you weren't looking. This is the Corsair AX850 850 watt power supply. It's a very high quality power supply by Corsair. Modular power supply allows you to connect only the power cables you need for whatever components you might happen to have in your system, and not connect certain cables to the supply that you don't need, which will help you keep the cable clutter down inside. So here we've got the ATX power cable connected here to the motherboard, and snakes down and tucked away nice and neat. We've got another power connector here that's plugged in, and the cable passes through a small pass-through here in the motherboard tray area. There's actually 3 pass-through areas, one right in front of the drive rack as well. So you do get some pretty good access here. It could be a little bit more open in terms of those pass-throughs, but we were able to get all of our cables through nicely. SATA cables, SATA data cables are passed through here in the back and up to our optical drives, which are installed. We've got a Blu-ray and a standard DVD burner drive right there as well. And let's see what else we can tell you. This is the hard drive we're going to use. This is for our bulk storage. It's a Western Digital 1 terabyte RE3 SATA hard drive. So again, bulk storage. It's a nice, reliable enterprise class drive, and is going to take care of the important files en masse on our system. So we just slid that right into the drive rack, snaps right in, and the connectors for data and power are already pre-wired in there. This is the graphics card we're going to use. This is an MSI GeForce GTX 580, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 580 graphics card. It is a dual slot card, and we will pop it in up top here. and snaps right into place. And then the main operating system storage we're going to use is a Revo drive, an OCZ Revo drive X2. So real fast PCI Express, 240 gig PCI Express SSD, which we will pop into a slot down here. And so with all that set up, we should be very close to being ready to power up the system. We'll connect some PCI Express power connectors to the graphics card, and then we'll fire it up and see if it ticks. What's that old saying? But wait, there's more. We actually forgot the memory. We've got a 16 gig Kingston HyperX Genesis memory kit, and so we've got actually four gig modules that we will plug into our Intel X79 Express chipset motherboard, and we will get the memory installed in the system. So, gotta have that. Let's take a look at some cabling in the back of the system next, and show you how we tidy it up, and then we'll fire it up. All right, so there you go. That's the back side of the system, and where all the magic happens. And as you can see, we're still tidying things up here. We got a couple more zip ties we can toss in to neaten things up. But as you can see, most of the wiring for the system is in the back side of the motherboard tray, the back side of the drive rack area. So that's why the front side, where the motherboard area is so neat and tidy and free of clutter, and allows for a lot more airflow inside our system, keeping things cool and comfortable under pressure. So we'll tidy this up a little bit more, button it up, and then fire it up. All right, and here is our final build out. We've actually gone ahead and dropped in another NVIDIA GeForce GTX 580 graphics card. You can see the Zotac card there on the left is now working in tandem and SLI with the MSI card. And as you can see, we've got our zip ties all wrapping up our PCI Express power cables nice and tight and neat. And as you can see, things are very neat and tidy around the CPU socket and DIMM socket area. A little bit more tidying up to do inside here, but the chassis is definitely well planned out, and cable routing is nice and neat to be sure. Let's give you a listen. This is what the system sounds like at idle, just sitting on the desktop. We'll move in close here. And I'm actually barely just getting levels on the sound meter on the camera here. So just to say that this system is quiet would be an understatement. It's very stealthy quiet system to be sure, and as you can see, sets up real nice. All right, and finally here we are with a little bit of 3D gaming workload going on. We've got FutureMark's 3D Mark 11 fired up. We've got it set to the Extreme preset, and we're going to score about 4269 in this test, which is excellent actually, again courtesy of those dual NVIDIA GeForce GTX 580s here spinning in tandem to push the pixels along with Intel's Core i7-3960X Sandy Bridge E 6-core processor. And we'll give you a listen to the acoustics under load now. Gaming workload. Still pretty quiet, not bad at all. So this has been a look at the Maingear Shift do-it-yourself computer case. I'm Dave Altavilla for HotHardware. Make sure you stop by our site for the full review. And thanks again for stopping by.